Hi everyone, it's not Halloween, it's Sunday night and I'm recording this live to have a conversation with Kurt, who's supposed to join at some point. We had some technical problems. It's the first time I do this, but I find this format really cool. Actually, he's asking to join, approve. Now we are live with Kurt from LA. I'm at Blockchain Hub. Kurt is in. Yeah, good to see you, man.
Yeah. What's up?
So, can you hear me properly?
I can. Everything sounds good, man. I think we finally figured it out, dude. We're smart.
All of that because of this little piece of cable. I was trying to find this little piece of cable that can connect this to an iPhone, because you cannot use this format on a computer. It has to be an iPhone, and yeah, you need to have the right device for that. So
cool.
So yeah, today we are talking about a few topics that we wanted to discuss and give some updates at the same time to everyone. So welcome to everyone who's joining. David, I don't know everyone. I don't know who is from your friends.
David is here, I think.
From my friends.
He's cool.
But we both.
I got to meet David recently.
Have amazing friends here. So yeah, and for those who are already asleep, because it's pretty late now in Europe, and those who are enjoying the sunny Sunday in LA, we will have a recording of this. So let's go. So what were the topics for today? I think first we wanted to talk about social media. We said as a starter, and the next evolution. So what is for you like the next year or the next 6 months with social media? Like, what are the main trends that you see? I think now the Facebook group has reached like the maximum you can get, like the live and all those services. So now everything that could be created almost is there in terms of media, in terms of instantaneity, in terms of all of that. So what are for you like the next stage?
This is a good question. Like, I think that anything that we're gonna do is all about immediacy. Like, I still even think that video, like even what we're doing right now, I think still feels awkward for a lot of people. But I think that this is the right way, like really immediate live stuff. And if you look in the App Store, you see like chat, like everything is just dominated by chat. And I think it says something about humanity that we need really immediate, quick responses. So I think whatever emerges is going to be something that's very immediate. Like, I think that that's one of the reasons why Snapchat did as well as it did, is because it really was a product that showed immediacy, and it's all about now, and it's not about recycling some bullshit picture I took last week. It's about now, and it's about quick and dirty, you know? And I think that whatever is going to be emerging now, this is kind of like short term. I think it has to be very immediate. Like, I'm very surprised that this feature in Facebook right here that we're using isn't used by everybody. This should be destroying any other live chat, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that so there is this component, and I think there is also the intuitiveness of voice and of video, and of, I think the future of social media is to stop having to type and to just like push a button and start engaging with people. And I think that doing that with good technology that doesn't lag, that is optimized for mobile, you know, if you're on your data and you need some like good quality to talk with your friends and to broadcast some content, I think this is very important. On my side, because as you know, I'm much more involved in the culture aspect of technology. Like, I'm very interested in how tribes are forming online. I see a big trend in the social media where social platforms are going to become nations. and nations with their own culture. So if you look at the world before internet, you had countries, and each country was recognizable. Like you can recognize an Italian or an American, or you can still do that to a certain extent. But on the other side, you have also these like digital nations, let's say, where you can recognize the member of, let's say, the Tumblr, you know, like social justice warrior with the pink hair and all of that, you know, like C-punk or whatever. You can recognize the hipsters, you know, and you have all those like digital nations now, and I really love.
I agree with you. I want to jump in on that one because I actually feel like this is forming in cryptocurrencies, and it's really interesting because like you could think of Bitcoin as its own country with its own culture. Monero has its own country with its own culture, and they're like layer nations that are layered over each other, and each cryptocurrency actually is both a culture, a nation, their own countries in a way, their own currency. Just think about it. What do nations really have?
Yeah.
They have a set of rules, maybe a style, a mission, and then they have currencies, right? And I feel like this is kind of what cryptocurrencies are. They're a form of expression. Like if I say that I'm really into Monero, I've created this cultural expression. And so like I've written about it in the past, cryptocurrencies as a form of expression where, you know, what's up, Rick? Rick just came in. And so I think that it's really like that, where a currency is actually a symbol of expression where it's no different from a jacket that I wear. It's no different. It's really a deeper fashion statement in my opinion.
And you see it also in the way people defend their coin. You know, it's like my coin is better than yours. You know, it looks a lot like patriotism. You know, when Russia and US were
religion
and like we are better than you. We are or religion as well. So it's I think crypto and social media have this capacity. And so to go back to social media, what I find very interesting these days is if you look at the Reddit users, for example, they are not going to go back to Facebook. It's over. They are on Reddit now. That's their little land. And even with the Reddit owners, the owners of Reddit don't own the platform anymore. Like if they try to change one little thing on the platform, it's a revolution and people run away. And,
what's up, Jared?
So I think that communities have appropriated some platforms, and so you can find specific culture on Reddit, you can find specific cultures on Instagram, for example, and Instagram is mostly feminine, YouTube and Reddit are mostly masculine, but then you have complete cultures that are being formed, and this is going to move on to the blockchain, and I'm really looking forward to see how social media and blockchain are going to form those digital nations that will eventually replace countries, because we are very far from each other, but I'm closer to you than to my neighbors who are just like 1 meter away.
You're right,
and this
man.
Wouldn't have been.
I don't even know some of my neighbors' names, you know, so it's just the way it is. It's
we are
happening,
part of
you know?
this global village, and you have lots of global village, and the agglomeration of this global village are part of digital nations. So I would say blockchain is a continent, because not everyone is on chain. So you have the old internet continent, you have the new internet continent, and then inside blockchain you have different countries. You have Ethereum, you have Bitcoin, you have Monero, as you said, and so on. And then you have villages. And
hey, I also wanted to, for sure. I want to jump in. If anybody is watching, just feel free to like ask questions or even add insight that you might have. Feel free.
Yes, feel free to take part in this village gathering.
Exactly what David is saying here. Communities based on interest and not on location. What else do we have on the list today to discuss?
So
Vector?
we were actually at the beginning we wanted to talk mostly about the EOS Hackathon coming in less than a week.
Yep.
So I'm very excited by this event. As you know, I participated to the previous ones. I made it actually 3 times to the final, so I'm pretty frustrated to not win a prize, but it gave me also an opportunity to participate again. So and so that's really cool.
And so that's coming up on, what are the dates? It's in November, right?
It's actually in 6 days from now, like next Saturday, basically. So
oh shit! I need to get my shit together, man.
Tickets, Are you traveling
Yeah.
by car?
I know eventually. Yeah. I'll probably fly. But it's possible that I could drive too. It just depends. If somebody's going up, it's kind of a long drive. It's like 5 hours, but if you do it, the flight from LA to San Francisco, it's kind of like a 3 hour,
I'm sure a lot
ordeal.
of people are
Anyways,
going
so
by car, so maybe you can share a ride or something, but yeah,
yeah,
planes are
yeah,
not that expensive.
for sure.
So,
But yeah, I know that we initially talked about doing it together, and I'm still actually open to that. But my I do have one idea, and I don't know if this is me just being kind of stupid or greedy or what, but I just don't really want to share my idea that I have. So I'm gonna wait until maybe the theme. Um, I'm gonna wait until I see the theme because actually, yeah, Rick is asking if I'm gonna share the idea. Um, yeah, I had this idea this morning, man. I'm just like I've just been like buzzing off of it all day, and I really don't want to share it yet. Only because I'm like I like to make sure it's feasible, you know. And so I used to do that when I was a chess player. I would have these really great lines and moves that I would do, and when I first found a new line, I would get so excited about it in chess that it would cloud my judgment because I was so excited about it, and it may not be feasible. Like there may be a counter move that I may not have seen, so I like to kind of meditate on it. And I also wanted to figure out who's interested in collaborating too. So I probably won't share it in the EOS Hackathon.
and so what do you think is going to
No.
be the theme, like based on the pattern that you can see from the previous editions? Did you think about it?
I mean, I believe that the theme, there's going to be one underlying theme that you can guarantee, which is compelling use of blockchain for sure, right? Like if it doesn't use the blockchain in a
Yeah,
compelling
of
way,
course.
then
That's
forget
part
about
of
it,
the.
right?
So there are five or four or five criteria that are the same for all the hackathons. So the first one is it has to leverage the EOS blockchain. So it has to leverage like the speed and all of that. Second is it has to be scalable, and it has to be able to like grow and scale. The third one is I think
Hey,
social
Paula.
impact or impact in general, like it has to be impactful. And I think the number four is creativity. I think there are just four criteria, and the fourth obviously is creativity. So that's the common rules or the common criteria for the judges. But then you have like a challenge, and so the first one was scale, like how to get mass adoption. The second one was about ecology. The third one was about finance. It was the one in Africa that I didn't attend because it was only for African residents. And then the last one, and no, the one before was about internet security, the one in London. And so now,
Okay.
if you look at London security, Australia ecology, Hong Kong mass adoption. San Francisco, what could be a theme related to San Francisco? I was thinking it could be maybe.
Oh, I hate this idea of doing a mass adoption theme. I hope they don't choose something like this for this one. Good. I'm glad.
Yeah, I've heard some people speculate on the fact it could be because also you have to look at the judges, and one of the judges is the founder of High Fidelity, which is a VR application. He's the former founder of Second Life, and so High Fidelity is about VR and gaming. I think it's pretty tough to ask blockchain developers to be good at VR, which is why I don't believe it could be the theme. But maybe something related to gamification or game or something like that could come up, because SF is also a big scene for.
I think that this is actually a really smart one. I believe right now, if they did do a game theme, you know, that would be really impactful, because I feel like that's where the market is right now. Or I think that not a lot of, like, to me, where the market is like something that's emerging. Like once the game space gets crowded, which it will, but it might take a year or maybe even longer. And actually, I think that we're starting on this low level of games where the games have to be very simple right now. Like you might not see a game like Candy Crush be on a blockchain right now, but really basic things like these gambling games, which are really just simple algorithms that can predict or determine who is a winner and just be provably fair. I think those are totally feasible right now, and those are the ones that are topping the charts on blockchain activity. But something like Candy Crush, maybe not so much, because you need this high TPS to make sure that each transaction is getting done right. I mean, you probably could build it on there, but my guess is, and then also for the hackathon, it's going to have to be low level concepts, because who's going to build a game in 2 days? You know,
Well, anyway,
like it would
nobody
have to
has
be a
never
basic one.
finished like a product at the hackathon. The goal is just to present the idea and
Yeah.
have some like basic prototype. But yeah, it definitely makes sense if you think that most of the founders of EOS, like Brock and Brendan, were both in the gaming industry before, and gaming is a great application of the EOS blockchain. That's actually the only blockchain that can do that.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, but I think it
Yep.
would be quite tough to ask developers to develop games. So maybe it could be related to games, but maybe something more accessible. And I had
Yeah, maybe also I have another concept that I might propose to them, but I'm sure they've already decided. Would be just like unique payments systems. You know what I
this
mean?
has been made in Africa, I
Like-
think,
like-
financial service, you know,
I see.
financial equality. So I don't think they would do
Mhm.
something related to finance a second time.
Yeah.
What is specific to the San Francisco and the Silicon Valley scene? Like maybe I was thinking it could be something for bringing more women into the blockchain, because I think the SF culture is very like into diversity and all of that. So that could be an interesting theme, like you know, find some
Yeah.
usage of the EOS blockchain that talk to the feminine audience. But what do you think
Sure.
is like the specialty in SF, or you know, like the
Something that's specific
because
to
if
that
you look
region.
at London, it was security and privacy, and you know, in Europe we have GDPR, and it's a big topic for the blockchain, which is not in the US.
Yeah.
Then in Australia it was about ecology, and Australia has
Rick is reading my mind. He's saying to solve the homeless problem.
Ah.
I think that this was my first trolling idea, but I think that if you're in San Francisco, it's hard to ignore the homeless problem
Yeah,
there.
it's
So
actually
that's a really
it's
interesting
actually
one.
everywhere in the news, and it completely makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So okay, what else
And
we have
so,
on the
yeah,
list
in
today?
general, like what are the news about EOS recently for people? Because I'm talking with people who are following EOS from far away, and they are missing a lot of news now. It's crazy. A lot of things are happening, especially on the betting side and the amount of users and the scale
Yeah.
and stuff. So I think that's quite interesting. Like, what are the most recent news? I think it's
Yeah, I think that for me, from my side, I think some of the most, just from my view, is some of the most exciting things are the actual metrics on EOS. There's been a lot of talk and a lot of speculation about fake activity. A lot of people trying to unravel what percentage of the network has fake chain activity. And most people that I've talked to who are, you know, a little bit more of kind of looking at this every day believe that the percentages are pretty low, you know. And yeah, there's going to be some spam on the network, and some of these people will get blacklisted for sure, which created some controversy. I think other topics that are kind of come up that are interesting is just how much the chain has actually been used, how many actual accounts are being created, which is skyrocketing. And I think that another theme that's come up for me is we've been talking about how the internet had the bubble burst in the beginning, and you know, during that time when it was kind of like an internet winter, it was really hard to judge which companies were going to be able to, you know, rise from the ashes of what happened there. And I think that it's going to be a lot easier to tell which ones are doing that in crypto, because because you can see all the activity on the chain. And right now, I think the hottest thing are gambling dApps and gaming dApps. There's Pixel Master and EOS Bet, EOS Dice, the dice game, gambling games, and they're sparking up. And it really reminds me of early internet where anyone was willing to throw up some shit, like just total bullshit, and hope that it works. And I feel like this is the kind of innovative and creative environment that we need. That's like the reality. The reality is that it's old internet kind of, and I think that having these shitty apps perform so well is really exciting for me, rather than what we had last year, which was, you know, major funds getting dumped into these crypto projects, and then they adjust their model overnight because they realize that they're getting as big as Google or something like that, and now they have to have a larger mission. Like I saw white papers get rewritten from a very simple concept to now all of a sudden they believe they're Google, you know, because of how much money they raised. And this to me, from a product point of view, is totally ridiculous, and it's too much of a burden, you know. But now we see that people that haven't raised any money are building the most money-making applications on chain, and that to me is reality, right?
I would actually put EOS in this category. Like when you look at the EOS model, basically you understand clearly that they took as much as they could from the crypto space, and now they are after the money outside of the crypto space. They are really structuring things in a way that they're gonna have dApps that will be addicted to their token in order to keep growing, and they will have business models where they are cashing in. And like, for example, the gambling sites, it's not like some long-term vision ICO where you have to like invest and one day maybe they will build a product that will be nice. It's like right now they are cashing in like crazy, and this is the kind of business that's going to start to pop out everywhere. And I'm actually quite surprised that the token value, like the value of EOS didn't really change, you know. Like I really thought after
I'm really surprised about this too, you know, and I think that,
for example, and I was really expecting after blockchain live and stuff, after a few announcements and stuff, but it looks like they make those massive announcements like Everypedia and all those great projects, and the market doesn't respond to it. So what's going on here?
Yeah, I would like to speak a little bit to the price, because I do have some beliefs there. I think one is that, you know, EOS markets aren't as liquid as Ethereum or other, you know, markets are. So I think that's probably one reason why the pricing is moving the way that it is, which isn't very much. Another thing is that I'm really surprised at how low it is, and my guess is because the same problem, the liquidity and the access to EOS is actually harder than, you know, I can buy Bitcoin in a bazillion places, but I can't buy EOS, and a lot of people are not aware of it. It's growing. But the thing that was really surprising to me, I made a few posts about it, was that Stellar and EOS are about the same. And if you look at the amount of chain activity and dApps that are being built on EOS, it's really disproportionate, right? Like if you were to, but at the same time, this is not how speculative markets work. Speculative markets work based on like what people are talking about and hype cycles and things that I don't believe are actually fully tied to blockchain activity, for example, because if it was, we should see a correlation, and we don't, right? So like, but see, if you get to me, the reality behind the value has a lot to do with the chain activity. And so right now, if you see that the chain activity is starting to kick off, my guess is it might be like how volume affects price. My guess is that chain activity and chain metrics and chain volume should actually eventually affect the price. I just think that the speculative market hasn't hit that reality, and they're not in sync yet, you know?
Yeah, that I see definitely the parallel with the beginning of the internet, where you would talk with the sales team of Google in 2001, and they were all about those 3P, you know, the poker, porn, and pills, you know, like the Viagra and all of that. That was their biggest source of revenue at the beginning. Clicks were selling at very high price and stuff. And it took much longer for the rest of the business, you know, to join. And you can see that today with EOS, like most of the revenue and most of the value is being generated on gambling. And I think I see also another parallel with the beginning of the internet, where you would, for example, if I was working online and I was telling my friends who were not on internet, like, yeah, you should buy some Google, when they went public. And people are like, oh, why? How do you know? And stuff, because people who are not part of it, they just have, some like general, feeling from the news and stuff. But when you work with Google and you see how much they grow, how much the auction on the clicks are growing like crazy, the amount of advertisers that are coming in and all of that, you see that they are cashing in, and you don't need to wait for their annual report to know that it's going to be an amazing year. And for people who are
that's
not
true. There's other signals.
They don't see that, and I've met people recently at blockchain.
I admit I didn't see it either. I really didn't.
Like
I wasn't really interested in the internet in the beginning, so it wasn't cool to me at all. So
I've met recently people who were not aware at all that that EOS was doing so well. They were like. For them it's just one crypto. They are still wondering maybe it's a scam, maybe it's over evaluated and stuff. And then you have people who are inside the community who know everything, and so there needs to be this synchronization. And I think it can take maybe, I don't know, 2 years, 3 years. I don't know how long it will take actually.
It'll take some time for sure. Yeah, and I think that there's also a really damning report. Well, I don't feel like it's truly damning, but Consensus put out this report recently. I think that you may have seen it, just about how it's really a cloud computing service and not so much a blockchain.
Actually,
I have a feeling there's going to be a wave of rebuttals.
Yeah, actually, I have debunked this article. It's the Next Web actually, and it's really like the level of bullshit in this article is quite staggering. First, it's full of contradictions. Like they are like, yeah, it's not decentralized, but there is a high risk of block producer collusion. Then you're like, but if it's already centralized, why do they need to conspire if it's already centralized? It doesn't make sense. And a lot of contradictions like that. And I think it's definitely the kind of...
Another thing that I thought was bullshit about this article, and maybe we shouldn't get too deep into it, but it's interesting because EOS has this concept of a constitution, and I really believe that yes, it's technically possible to collude and it's technically possible to do these things, but it's also actually technically possible to do a 51% attack on Bitcoin if you really wanted to. I mean, it's just in the world of possibilities, but I can't imagine that the Constitution wouldn't blacklist. If you want to be a block producer, you have to follow the Constitution, right? And so I'm pretty sure the Constitution will not allow collusion of any kind. And so this basically removes the possibility not to a 0% probability, but so low that it's not a concern, and it's a step in the right direction, and it's a blockchain that people are actually using. Whereas, these other ones, like I've heard my friends say that Ethereum is what did they say? They said it was a vending machine for shit coins, right? And that's what the main use is. But see, what we're seeing EOS be used for is real applications, and this real other internet that we're trying to build is supposed to be better, right? So there's a big difference between a shitcoin vending machine and a shitty DApp vending machine. I'll take a shitty DApp vending machine over a shitty shitcoin
there is this
vending machine, right?
level of perfectionism when it comes to decentralization, where if it's not 100% bulletproof decentralized and stuff, it's not worth at all, and to me it doesn't make sense. You see that also with dApps, I'm building a dApp on EOS, and I don't care about decentralization at this point. I don't care about having everything on the blockchain. My goal is to get users and to get as many users, and then when I start to have, let's say, 1 million users and I have a lot of stake in the game, of course, I'm going to really think about decentralization, about security, about all of that. But what's the point being obsessed with security and decentralization when you don't even have users on the platform? And something I see also about...
for sure. And the concept has to make sense.
And you have to grow your security with the amount of stake. It's you don't need to create a fortress if you have you don't need to have a private parking if you have Ford Fiesta or something. You need security when you have a high stake, and so I think that even if today you have this, it's the very beginning of EOS, and you have a lot of instability in terms of how is the governance going to work and so on. I think that's the kind of questions that will be sorted out over time, and I think that the main voters in the future will not be the same as today. Today, most of the coins are at the exchanges. I think that first the Rex, the hard fork that's coming. Have you heard about it? The project that the engineering team is working on.
They're hard forking what?
EOS,
I mean,
EOS there will be a massive update soon, and actually it's an hard fork that will not be actually visible. But what they are working on is something in the same line, along the lines of Shintai, like the concept of lending your tokens.
Yeah.
And they will build this natively on EOS, and they will allow people who have their tokens into exchanges to stake them directly into the EOS network and to lend them to dApp developers. And by doing that, they will receive rewards. So today, the EOS value is extremely stable and it's quite boring. It's like $5 something every day for like months now. But you will have a reward system where you will be able to get money out of this. And once you start moving your EOS around, then you will be incentivized also to vote, because you want to have, you have stake in the game, so you want to have a good governance. And so I think that this is going to drive a lot of people who will stake their tokens and start voting, and it's going to completely change the dynamics of the block.
That sounds cool. Yeah, maybe we can post a link to this project in the comment stream, because I think that this will be a good thing to follow.
Yeah, like
we have other. Is there any different? So it's different from Chintai, the other project. It's a Chintai-like product. You're saying that's a fork. Right?
It's quite similar, but it will be native into the EOS blockchain. So and it's called the Rex.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's post a link to that so we can see. I'm also
it's going to be released pretty soon, and I think
so.
that's a big game changer. And I think the second big game changer also is the fact that when dApps are going to start to scale, they will need to buy CPU, they will need to buy all those computing power. And in order to do that, they will have to buy it back from all the speculators and stuff. So the price will inevitably go up, and it will start soon. And then as a dApp developer, you are also very incentivized to vote well, because you want to have cheap RAM, you want to have cheap CPU, and you want to have block producers who actually have an infrastructure that's performing and that's strong. And so it will not be the same criteria. Today, people are voting because, I'm friend with this guy, or I've seen this guy on YouTube and he seems nice, so I'm going to vote for him. In the future, you will have people literally like reviewing the infrastructure and be like, hey, what are the machines you have? What is the network? How fast is it? And so on. And it will get more and more technical, and it will be more.
I agree, and it'll become more competitive, and I think that the markets will start to really have an effect on the quality for sure, because I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of block producers that have gotten to where they are because of politics, which I don't disagree with at all. I think that people who can show that they have an interest in running the network deserve their votes. But I think that, in order for the network to be really robust and really scalable, eventually any low performing parties will be totally removed.
And I believe a lot also in like different forms of association, but not between separate block producers and separate accounts, but more coming together and forming one block producer. And so this will also participate in the decentralization, because the collusion is a risk if you have different block producers who vote each other. But if you have different teams that combine their forces and say, hey, we are 4 block producers and now we're going to be one, and we're going to have all this infrastructure that has servers all over the world and so on, this is going to create another form of collusion, which will make it even more decentralized. And so that's why I'm not worried today about all those beginnings, of the EOS blockchain.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it at all, and I think it'll be like an all-out war, and that's eventually going to be good for the network. Like, if people collude and then they end up with a weak little like micro network of collusion, they're all going to get killed. So it's almost better that they do they can parlay their collusion into a new producer with combined forces, and then they have to compete against other people, because sometimes, like, I feel like the Bitcoin competition, it actually needs more collaboration. Like, a lot of people are going to look at it collusion, but that's just another word sometimes for collaboration as well. Like, I've seen block producers performing, because I used to have a block producer on EOS, and we actually were pretty high up at one point in time. And what I learned from that was that some of these other block producers can help you. They can help you to understand things you didn't understand, and it's collaborative, and it's really a positive environment. Like, there's probably for every, all of these guys are actually, I've met a lot of them, and they're really great guys. They're technologists, they're optimistic, they're collaborative. I don't even feel like they're really competing against each other. I feel like they're really helping each other a lot. So I get it. Like, technically there could be collusion, but for the most part, I think that they're just really optimistic, cool guys from what I've learned.
Yeah, I have the exact same
Yeah.
feeling. Like, I think that the crypto space has its culture that is very diversified. But when you go to the EOS community, you really have like this very strong culture of collaboration and of thinking first about the general interest rather than your own selfish interest. And I think that's a value that is very important for the EOS community, and that's actually the key to this community. You cannot enter and you cannot be accepted if you don't show your goodwill and your good faith and all of that. And I think that's actually the real asset of EOS. I don't even think it's the technology. I think the technology is great, but I think the real asset is to have people who can trust each other to the point that they just made an ICO where contractually, like in terms of the legal aspect, they were not tied to the investors. They were completely free to screw their investors if they wanted to, but they didn't, because there is this reputation and this culture and this trust that is being formed between people because of their past, because of their alliances, because of all of that. And I think that's why I think they are not even worried about having lots of alternative blockchains that are being launched with the software, because at the end of the day, all the core and everyone will come back to the core, and the infrastructure also will be cheaper on the core, and everything is going to benefit the value of the token. So
yeah, I was watching this speech by Brock Pierce, actually, where he said something pretty interesting, and I think we all know it's true, but it's really interesting to think about it as like a factual thing where forks actually just add more value and more of a market cap to the entire market. And I think that that's really interesting, because it's not just market cap. I think that these forks actually add more knowledge to the overall network. For example, I don't think that EOS would exist without Ethereum. I think if you go back in time and you erase Ethereum, EOS doesn't actually exist. And even though I favor EOS a lot more than Ethereum, look at it, it's a highly derivative product. It uses this, this interesting like mathematical shape. It looks very similar. It has a lot of similar concepts with smart contracts and everything like that. Really, it's kind of like EOS just stepped on Ethereum's head in a way. And so, and then there's all these great Bitcoin forks that add all this extra value and show the parent branch like, hey, this is how you could possibly do something. And I think that whatever got forked initially could learn a lot from these little, what they could just be seen as like child experiments
that's
or something,
interesting.
right?
I was thinking about that today, about how Snapchat got.
What's up, Mark?
Hey, how Snapchat basically was.
I just saw Mark
was,
and came in.
giving insights to Facebook, to Instagram. So basically, Snapchat was a kind of fork of Instagram. Like if you look at it like on a feature based. So they did something better than Instagram, and Instagram learned from Snapchat, and they kind of took back their users by improving, and the fact that there is this competition between different blockchain, different apps, different applications, it's quite healthy, because it pushes the ones who get copied to improve. I think that's what also Ethereum should have been doing. They should have put aside their ego and move very fast to DPoS. Yeah, I think it's much harder also with blockchain.
Yeah, maybe so, but I'm also a big believer. I'm a big believer in Ethereum, more so than some of my friends that are really into EOS. Like, I feel like what Ethereum's doing is like a long game for like laying out the foundation for different standards. Like, if you look at what's happening with EOS, like you see that there's an ERC 721 proposal. Where does that come from? Well, it came from Ethereum if you look at it, right? And so I think that you know, Ethereum actually has in my opinion, a more robust system, and they should. They've been around for longer, but I think that that could serve as like a really great infrastructural thing. For example, if a government wants to use a cryptocurrency over 10 years, it might not be stupid to actually use Ethereum. And I've identified a few things as a developer, for example, like if you want to create a smart contract that maybe doesn't have a ton of action, but is robust and secure, your choice would probably be Ethereum because you have Solidity that's pretty nice and it doesn't give you so much power and control over your program that you can fuck it up. But in EOS, you can really fuck it up pretty bad. And actually the mainnet went down for these or was challenged for these very reasons that writing smart contracts in C++ actually introduced, right? Like we have memory, like they were injecting commands into memory management, and that is not even possible in
Like
Solidity,
the way
right?
I see Ethereum, like we had DevCon here, in Prague, like the last few days, and the conversations I had with people were like, Ethereum is very good for, let's say you want to create like a security token and you want to tokenize a VC fund, or you want to tokenize the investment into a startup and create an incubator and make the intermediary between the investors and the startup. And you have like, let's say 20 transactions per day and with very high stake, very big transactions. I think that's the proof of work feels safer and looks safer for all the stakeholder into the project. And then if you want something that's faster and a little bit more flexible and so on, and maybe less, like return on the rock, then you will go for EOS. And yeah, I think those three chains are.
I was just reading a funny comment here from David. Actually, he's like, he wanted to build a hot or not application for the homeless. I think it's pretty funny, this comment here. Anyways, what else do we have? What else do we have on the list here to discuss? I wanted to mention, actually, if anybody, I wanted to mention one thing is that I created this crypto live chats group, and I think that what I'd like to do is kind of experiment around with, we can curate a group of people because I believe we can have more than one person in these chats. And I'm thinking that what we can do is just bring in more people to kind of come in and offer their unique perspective and maybe even share things about their projects. I really like this format, actually.
Yeah, I think we have a great tool to amplify the formation of this village that is happening on Facebook right now with the intersection between the dApps and the conversation about all the topics that are around. Like I'm very into culture and dApps, and because that's my focus and that's where I'm putting all my energy these days. But I think it's great to have Fred talking about links and having all those.
Yeah, we should get Fred on the next one and get these guys on the next chats. I think
I'm
we
very
could do like
to,
2 per
to
week
meet
or
him
something.
in SF in a couple of days.
Yeah. Oh, you haven't met him yet.
So
Cool.
so yeah, like I think the next.
What else do we have? Do we have anything else?
Next,
or
we should do it from SF, like all together after the final. So let's try to like do it on Sundays, maybe not every Sunday, but next Sunday would be great. And yeah, we could be all together, and hopefully with one of us making it to the finals or even getting a prize. But even if not, I would say, just to go back to the hackathon, I think that the biggest prize of this hackathon is really the experience first and meeting the people there. Like it's really different from
that's what it is for me
blockchain
too.
events. You have a lot of different profiles. You have a lot of people who came for lots of different reasons. Some are just curious about blockchain, and some are just looking for.
Welcome, Robert.
But on the EOS Hackathon, you have people who know very well the EOS blockchain, who actually know each other from internet, and they meet each other sometimes even from the same team. You know, people they build a team from like different places in the world, and they meet up during the hackathon for the first time.
Yeah.
And then you have this like very strong culture and cohesion between everyone, and the ambience is great, and the way Block One executes like basically what I was telling them, like everything they do is done properly. You know, like if you look at the legal aspect, you know, you have those disclaimers and stuff. It's always like very, you know, you feel it's very serious, and they know what they are doing on the legal side. Then you look at the marketing side.
Yeah, that's good to hear actually, because I hear a lot of criticism of Block One, you know, and I think that having somebody who really believes and sees what they're actually doing and can comment
like
after, and say that it's really great. I think you don't hear this a lot.
After 3 hackathons, you know, I've seen how professional they are in everything they do, you know, in terms of even the set design, you know, they have a team of people who like design, and every detail, you know, is like taken care of, like the little, I don't know, the gifts and the little napkins, and everything is branded with EOS, and like the way they design the room and the way they organize, like they work with Angel Hack for the hackathon, and they are doing a great job together. And in general, you can see that the team and the people there are very smart, and that's something that you don't necessarily see when you hear about EOS. That's true.
Yeah, right on. Well, unless we have anything else to talk, maybe we can cut it off here. I know.
For now, and next one will be from SF, and thank you for watching to everyone. I hope it was interesting. We are happy to get some feedback, and let's see where it goes from here.
Right on. Take it easy.
Thank you, man. Have a nice Sunday. Bye bye.